Yes. So I want you to picture whole food, right? Apples, bananas,
Okay.
grains, brown rice, potatoes, beans, lentils, legumes. And then I want you to picture an Oreo, which is vegan,
An
overly
Oreo is vegan?
processed.
An Oreo is vegan?
An Oreo is vegan, not
Really?
healthy.
Welcome to the Permission to Heal podcast. I am Marcy Brockman. Together, we will discover what brings us meaning and true joy. You only need your own permission to begin. Hello, and welcome to Permission to Heal. I am Marcy Brockman, and I am thrilled that you are here today. Today, I have a wonderful conversation with Kathy Davis. Kathy Davis is a plant-based lifestyle and accountability coach. She helps others transition to their version of plant-based helps others transition to their version of a plant-based lifestyle. She does group coaching, she does one-on-one phone calls with her group coaching clients. She's written 3 cookbooks on whole food plant-based eating. She has a Facebook community called Veg Inspired Foodies. She's really sweet and really knowledgeable and very motivating. I am not a vegan or a vegetarian, and now I kind of want to try it more. She and her husband live, this is very cool. They live in an RV and they travel all the time. They travel all over the United States. They've been to 26 states in 3 years, and she says they follow the seasons. They go where they want. They go where it's warm. They've been to all these national parks, and she says that she and her husband just are grateful and love that every day they wake up and they're living their best life. I think that's amazing. Um, so Kathy Davis is a Kathy Davis is a plant-based lifestyle coach and a recipe developer. She's the CEO of VegInspired.com and the author of 3 cookbooks. The titles: The 3-Minute Whole Food Plant-Based Cookbook, the Super Easy Plant-Based Cookbook, and the Budget-Friendly Plant-Based Diet Cookbook. She helps people successfully transition to a plant-based way of eating that supports a fast-paced lifestyle without requiring hours in the kitchen or added stress. Kathy has been eating and creating vegan meals for more than 7 years. Over the past year and a half, she shifted her daily habits to follow a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. She has amazing results, renewed energy, newfound sense of joy, and a healthier mind and body. Kathy's brand, Veg Inspired, is dedicated to providing people with the resources to make a similar transformation. She is eager to guide others on their journey to get from where they are to where they want to be. She's just so motivating and so great. And she used to be a school teacher. She taught elementary school and loved it, and transitioned out of that when she and her husband moved. And then she found herself in business that motivated her to, or I should say, inspired an entrepreneurial drive in her. And she's great. And she loves to share with people how they can easily eat more plants. And that's great. So I hope that you enjoy this episode and that you eat more plants. Thanks so much. Hi, I'm so excited to share with you the new Permission to Heal bookshop on bookshop.org. We all know how important it is to support our local and independent bookshops, and I've created a podcast-dedicated bookshop on bookshop.org. So just follow along with me at Permission to Heal bookshop on bookshop.org. The link will be attached to the post, and you can have access to the entire catalog of books by my expert guests. You can just click and order from the independent bookshops and support everyone. It's pretty awesome. I've also put a bookshelf with my own Permission to Land books on it, and all sorts of books for inspirational help and books that I love. So join me on bookshop.org with the bookshop, the Permission to Heal bookshop. Hi, Kathy. How are you today?
Hey, Marcy, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're here. I have been, ever since I booked you on the show, I've been curious to ask you all sorts of questions about vegetarian lifestyles and about eating more plant-based foods and so on. I started the Noom diet thing. I don't want to say diet, but it's, the Noom app in August or September, hoping it would help me readjust my relationship with food. And it has made me more conscious. And they divide foods into like green foods, which are obviously green foods that you can have in almost unlimited quantities. And then there's yellow foods, which are okay, and you can have them, but be careful. And then there are red foods where you need to limit. And I had a really hard time in the beginning because I was eating the way I used to eat. And now slowly, like when I want pizza, I eat cauliflower crust pizza. Like I don't eat the pizza from the pizzeria. And I find that it makes me sort of sick at this point. Like it just gums up my belly and I just feel like I swallowed a football.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why people tend to stick with the way that they eat when they make a lifestyle change. It's because they start to learn the way food affects their body.
Right.
And they're like, oh, this makes me feel good. I'll eat more of this. This makes me feel yucky.
Mm-hmm.
Let's eat less of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that with, what was I eating? It was chocolate or something. And I was so looking forward to it because I remembered the way it used to taste. And then I ate it and I was like, no, it's not even worth the calories. I'm not even enjoying this. It doesn't even taste good anymore. So my brain needs to unlearn what it remembers,
That's the key. It's all mindset.
mindset.
80% of it is mindset. The way we've been programmed into thinking about food and the foods that we eat since we were born.
Yeah. Okay. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. So you used to be a school teacher. What did you teach? I'm an English teacher full time. So
I love it. I was a 4th and 5th grade elementary school teacher in North Carolina.
Did you like it? Did you?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. And then my husband and I decided to move to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I was moving kind of in an awkward time to get a job teaching, like
Right.
The ideal times are usually end of the year, summer, right?
Right.
Because you'll be there when school starts. And so I ended up with an administrative assistant job with a company. And I really fell in love with that. I really fell in love with like the business side of things,
Interesting.
the finance, the money, all the things I didn't think I liked.
Really?
And I really started to get a knack for entrepreneurialism and kind of everything's kind of evolved from then. So I haven't taught in probably, gosh, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer.
Wow.
Maybe even 10 years. Wow. It has been a while. It's crazy how fast time flies.
Sure. And then somehow you transitioned from that to being a plant-based lifestyle accountability coach. How did you do that? Where did that come from?
Well, the love of the small business and doing the marketing and the budgeting and the financing and all of that, I grew pretty quickly in the company. And when I transitioned to eating vegan, I found that there was a gap in people showing how easy it could be. I felt like it was either recipes or it was aggressive animal welfare tactics. And I wanted to find a blend. I really wanted to inspire people to eat more plants. And that's when Veg Inspired started. And that was in 2005. So I've been vegan for since 2014. I started Veg Inspired in 2015 as a platform to help inspire people eat more plants. So recipes, inspirational posts, tips, strategies, tactics, all of that. And as my relationship with eating plant-based evolved and I learned the difference between vegan and whole food plant-based from a health perspective.
Oh, you're going to have to clue us in because I didn't know there was a difference.
Oh, there's a huge difference from a health perspective. I wanted to share that with others. I wanted to share that transformation. I wanted to share the strategies and the tips and the foods and the recipes and the habits and the mindset that I implemented to make this big transformation. And that's how the Eat More Plants Academy and my plant-based coaching really took off.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on all over social media and your own Facebook group, and you've got a lot of stuff. All of your links will be in the show notes. So if you're not driving, scroll down. If you're driving, you'll have to wait.
Yes, please wait. Don't scroll while you're driving.
No. So there is a difference between, what did you say, vegan and whole foods plant-based eating?
Yes. So I want you to picture whole food, right? Apples, bananas,
Okay.
grains, brown rice, potatoes, beans, lentils, legumes. And then I want you to picture an Oreo, which is vegan,
An
overly
Oreo is
processed.
vegan? An Oreo is vegan?
An Oreo is vegan,
Really?
not healthy. An Oreo is not
You'd
healthy.
figure there'd an egg in there somewhere, no?
You'd figure there'd be an egg. What is the cream made out of if it's not made out of dairy? Like,
right.
So
It's
when you
all
start to
things we can't pronounce.
exactly, when you start to unpack, this is vegan, and vegans who switch from a standard American way of eating can end up in a very processed situation. Vegan alternatives, vegan processed foods. And I am not saying that there isn't a time and a place for those. But what happened to me is over the first 5 years of eating vegan, I became reliant on those. I would go to restaurants and I would eat the vegan burger and fries off the menu, and I would get vegan burgers and cheese and bring it home, and I would have cheese and vegan sour cream and all of that on all my tacos. And before I knew it, 5 years in, that healthy way of eating that I started, where I had begun to feel lighter and cleaner, 5 years in, I was lethargic, overweight, groggy, disappointed, kind of unhappy, showing
Right.
all of the symptoms of prediabetes. And honestly,
Really?
I was terrified to go to the doctor and be put on a medication. And I remember the pivot point when I said I stepped on the scale. We have 3 cats that we travel with, and I was weighing one of them so that we could order some medication for them because I had to report the weight. And I stepped on the scale to do the math, and I was like,
Uh-oh.
I'm at my highest weight ever. And I always tell people, like, I lost 40 pounds transitioning to plant-based eating from vegan. But what I gained in doing that is the real transformation, because that loss taught me how to have a healthy relationship with food, how to live an energized life, how to fit easy plant foods into my busy schedule, right? I'm a full-time traveler, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a cookbook author. Like, I'm busy, I'm doing all the things. And because of the way I eat, I'm able to do all the things with energy at my peak performance.
Mhm.
And that was the big transformation. And really the thing that I wanted to empower other people to do, leverage the power of plant foods. So that's why I started, Veg Inspired has kind of evolved into this subcategory of the Eat More Plants Academy, because it's really about more whole plant foods into your diet so that you can feel at your optimum performance.
Right. Now, okay, let backtrack slightly with me. The difference between vegetarian and vegan is that vegan doesn't eat eggs or dairy?
Correct. Vegan doesn't eat eggs or dairy or fish.
No fish either.
Right. Vegan is no animal products and no animals. So even honey, typically vegans don't eat honey as well.
It's just bees.
Yeah, but it goes deeper than that. So
Did you like my bee?
I did. I love your bee.
I'm doing the little, sorry.
Commercial bee production ends up replacing the honey with high fructose corn syrup, which in the end hurts the bees. So it's like, it goes bigger than the product itself. It's also the treatment of the animals. And veganism is a very ethical decision. It's very rooted in animal welfare typically, whereas plant-based eating is usually more about your health. So like, I identify as an ethical vegan. I don't eat animals. I don't wear animal products. I don't use animals as entertainment, any of that, but I eat whole plant foods. I typically 99% of the time, I do not eat processed vegan foods, if that makes sense.
Sure. So about 2 years ago now at this point, this whole pandemic has thrown my schedule, my whole concept of time into a tizzy. I don't even know. So let's say some point about 2 years ago, I sought the help of a dietitian to help me sort of figure out what my menopausal post-hysterectomy body was supposed to look like, how it was supposed to function. How am I going to figure out how to find health in all of this? So anyway, long story short, I had this diet, yada, 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 whatever, sent me to the store Whole Foods. And I was walking around shopping, now became like a 2-hour epic because I was educating myself with everything that I was picking up off the shelf. And they had all of these things like fake egg replacer, is that like all chemical too? Like, should we not eat that either? I mean, if you are, no insult, no judgment, go do you. I'm trying to learn.
Right. Loaded question, right? Isn't that what we always say?
Yeah.
So my perspective is the more whole food it can be, the closer to nature it can be. And whole food can get very confusing because there's a store called Whole Foods. But like when you think about the egg replacer versus using tofu to make a tofu scramble, or using ground flax and water to make an egg replacer when baking, or using applesauce to make an egg replacer when baking, or a banana. So it's really about looking at how you're using the ingredients. And a really good way to think about it is, if you're in the grocery store and the ingredient label has lots of ingredients, it's likely very processed.
Okay.
And we typically pick the more unprocessed options. So we would buy broccoli in the freezer section instead of broccoli with, a cheesy sauce that's all mixed together.
Like cheese on vegetables. I'm a purist when it comes to vegetables. Don't add stuff on top.
Or like, think about the difference between a granola type bar that you can physically see through the packaging, the nuts, the seeds, the dried fruit, versus an uber processed granola bar where all it is ground wheat flour that says whole grain on the front.
Right.
So thinking about the way things are packaged and marketed, because a lot of it's marketing.
Sure. Somehow they're allowed to say things that make it sound like it's healthier than it actually is.
I mean, there's plant-based products on the market that say plant-based on the front, and there's eggs in them because they used other plant-based ingredients. Eggs are not plant-based. We all know that. So when I'm educating
Not
clients,
unless we can plant a chicken.
Right. Or an egg. I'm educating clients. I'm like, okay, so when you look at the ingredients, you need to be aware that this could be a marketing tactic, or it could actually be plant-based, which is why it's easier for me to say, just eat the broccoli, just eat the apples, just eat the beans, just eat the brown rice. Like, let's not try and buy all these fancy put together things. So then I have to educate how to make simple meals, because it can sound very overwhelming, right? If you're listening to this now, you're like, I can't do that. It's too overwhelming. Well, I'm 8 years in. That's a very different place than somebody who's considering it right now.
Sure. Like I'm transitioning from chaos to I don't know what. Really not sure. I don't know. I don't think I could go. I certainly couldn't go vegan. That's just not for me. I can't do any soy. My body just hates it. So I can't replace that. And I can't eat bananas. And I have certain restrictions that I think would prohibit me. And I would miss fish. I could probably give up beef, but I would miss chicken. I would miss fish. I don't know. But adding more plant-based things in my life and getting rid of processed foods and all that stuff is certainly a step in the right direction,
Absolutely. And it's interesting, Marcy, because I said all the same things that you're saying too 8 years ago. It took me at least 6 months to really accept it as a like way of living. And one of the things that I've also found is that a lot of the soy in a vegan diet is in the processed foods, because you can replace tofu and tempeh and soybeans and soy sauce with so many other options.
Right.
But where soy really comes in is in all the like processed vegan foods, because that's how they add protein, or they use soy isolates. And it's just,
Right.
it's become very common for people to avoid processed vegan foods because of all the things in them, gluten,
Sure.
weird chemicals, soy, other things like that, and eat more of a whole food plant-based diet, or plant centered, because of the processed foods just being so full of things they don't want to eat.
Sure. And I think I remember hearing somewhere that soy wasn't so good for women of a certain age anyway, because it has so much estrogen in it, plant-based estrogens. I don't know if that's true. That's an English teacher talking. I don't know. I'm not a chemist or a nutritionist or a dietitian.
Right. The research I showed that the phytoestrogens in soy are different than the estrogen in, that actually the phytoestrogens are better for women, especially in those the prime cancer ages, because of the benefits.
Oh,
Christy
okay. So don't listen
Funk.
to me.
Well, but that's a common misconception. But
Okay.
Dr. Christy Funk, who's she's the, I can't think of the word, that she's the doctor that did the mastectomy for Angelina Jolie. So she's a very
Okay.
highly affluent, highly respected doctor. She actually wrote a whole book called Breasts, the Owner's Manual.
Okay.
So for any,
So she's an oncologist.
yes,
Okay.
or is it it's wouldn't OBGYN, is that? I don't know what the,
Could be. I don't know. Anyway,
she's a physician, and she wrote a whole book on that. And her research is also supported by other doctors as well in the plant-based space, that the estrogen is different, and it actually doesn't do the things that we think it does, but it gets a bad rap. And so a lot of people avoid it. But that's a really great book. She actually recommends soy daily, which was the
really?
shock for me, because she's one of the only doctors that recommends soy that frequently. Most of the plant-based doctors do recommend less of it because it is more processed.
Uh-huh.
And so it tends to be a little bit higher in fat. So if it's if you're going for a weight loss,
Sure.
maybe obviously less fat is better for weight loss.
Interesting. But I think it depends on individual bodies and as well, not that I'm discounting what the doctor said, but interesting. So if a client comes to you and has no idea where to begin, what advice do you give?
My first tip is to eat more plants. And it sounds as simple as it is. Like,
Okay.
let's look at what you're already eating.
Okay.
And let's eat the foods that are plant-based that you already like. Do you like potatoes? Let's eat more potatoes. Do you like broccoli? Let's eat more broccoli. Let's start to crowd out the animal products, because just like you said, we fear we're going to miss the chicken. We fear we're going to miss the fish. We're going to miss the foods that we love. So let's not give them up all at once. Let's learn to love new foods.
Yeah.
And
you have
that's
to have something to replace it with.
Right. And that's from really my perspective of eat more plants, take baby steps, give yourself grace, be intentional. Somebody could come to me and say, nope, I want to go vegan. I want to do it all right now. I don't want to take your baby step approach. I'm all in. Let's go. Let's run together. But if you come to me and you're like, I want to dip my toe in it, where do I start? How do I make it easy?
Mm-hmm.
Start by adding foods that you already like. Then let's take a meal. Maybe it's breakfast. Let's change out your breakfast for 1 to 2 same easy plant-based breakfasts. Maybe it's oats. Maybe it's an oat blueberry bowl. Maybe it's apple cinnamon quinoa. Maybe it's avocado toast. Maybe it's a smoothie. Look at the breakfast ideas that you already like. Let's fit them into your busy life, right? If you're busy and you don't have you're out the door at 6 a.m. to catch a train or something,
Mm-hmm.
you might not have time to buzz up a smoothie. You might need to make, breakfast on the go, maybe overnight oats.
I do that. I do overnight oats like 5-6 days a week. Oats, oatmeal, and blueberries. Of course, I put honey in it, but I ruin it there. But
dab of maple syrup. But again, honey, that would be like the last thing I would worry about changing out for somebody.
Right.
Like, I'm looking at removing the highly inflammatory foods, the dairy,
bacon,
the processed foods. Yeah. Well, I classify bacon under the processed foods, but yes, bacon, oil is extremely inflammatory and has extreme negative benefits for heart and blood vessels and all of that. I mean, the Dr. Esselstyn diet that is no oil, he prescribes that to reverse heart disease. So like if I have a
Well,
client
what
that comes
kind of
to me,
oil? All oil?
the plant-based doctors say all oil. And
Because I use avocado oil when I cook. That's not good either.
well, my theory, so the plant-based doctors would say no. And my theory on it is avocado oil might be healthier than canola oil, which is healthier than bacon fat. But when you get to the end, the avocado itself
Is
would give
better.
you the fiber, the nutrients. So it's more of a
Right.
whole food. So that's where we start. We start with getting rid of the processed foods. But it's a
Okay.
learning curve to learn how to
Sure.
cook without oil, to learn how to bake without eggs. I mean, everything is a step by step. It is not an overnight situation. And that's what people need to understand. It's not about trying to do it overnight. It's really about changing it out one meal, one snack, one recipe at a time.
And so that's what your Facebook community does, and that's what your coaching business does. Is it group coaching or is it one-on-one?
It's a hybrid of that. So I have group coaching, and then all the clients also receive a one-on-one call each month to really narrow in on their specific focus.
Oh, that's cool. And then
It's
the
awesome.
and then the cookbooks go along with that too, like probably inform them on what to actually eat and what to put
Yes.
in things.
Easy recipes. It's a great resource. I do part of my group coaching is that we meal plan together. So my clients have access to my cookbooks. We're able to meal plan. We're able to look at our recipes together. That's all done as a group because what you make for dinner might sound good to me.
Right.
So we get
to someone else. Right.
Plan as a community. Yep.
Interesting. Very interesting. And so, I mean, sort of taking a little left turn here. Is it sorry, is it easier to store food in the RV as a vegan than it would be as a plant-based, a non-plant-based eater, as an animal person, whatever, animal eater?
Well,
I didn't know
because
how to answer that question, ask that question gracefully. It just
right. Well, one of the big things in the RV is that we have an RV refrigerator. So I feel like it kind of chases the temperature. If I had dairy, meat in there, if I had lunch meats or anything like that, I'd be a little bit more worried about the
temperature fluctuation.
Eggs.
Because they would go bad.
Because if we're sitting in a spot on an RV site where the sun beats on the refrigerator all afternoon, I can only do so much to control that temperature. Like that refrigerator has to work. And then at nighttime, we might go down to 20 degrees. So it could be, I mean, we chase the climate. So we wear flip-flops all year round, but every now and then we find ourselves in a situation where it gets a little chilly. And so then the top row of the refrigerator freezes. So then your, herbs have a little crisp to them.
Interesting.
So I feel less concerned about the food in the refrigerator because it's not food that necessarily spoils.
Right.
At least not from that perspective. I mean, I don't think the temperature changes extremely drastically. It's not, I mean, it is an enclosed space and it does run all day long, it is connected to power to keep it cold all day. But if there was animal products in there, I'd have to be much more conscious of the temperature and how it froze.
Sure.
Right. If you throw chicken in the freezer, you want it to freeze solid.
Right. And not partially thaw in between and so on.
But our space is large. So we have oats and brown rice and canned vegetables and canned fruits and canned tomatoes. And we have space for all of that. But we also bought the RV that had the grand kitchen model. So we could continue to do YouTube videos and cooking classes and all of that as well.
That's so cool. So how did you and your husband decide to sell the house or get rid of the house and put it on wheels, so to speak, take your life on the road?
Yeah. So it was like I don't know, kind of like a 6 to 8 month exploration, I suppose, of what life really was about for us. We'd lived in Charlotte, we'd lived in Pennsylvania, we got married in Pennsylvania. We both had great jobs. We were commuting every day to work. We would take weekends off and go visit our family in Western New York. We would take weekends off and go on trips. but it was always PTO. There's always something in the way.
What's
We had
PTO mean?
paid time off. We always had to
Okay.
take time off, or, I had, when I was teaching, I had to be on a school vacation. Like
Sure.
everything was dictated by somebody else. And I remember going on a trip. We actually went to Chicago before we were in the RV. And I was like, gosh, what would it be like if we could travel all the time? And neither of us were really thinking what that was like the first little bit of seed. And then we started looking at houses, and we were going to buy property, and we were going to build a house on this property, and we are going to have this awesome outdoor space and this awesome kitchen. And somehow we ended up on an RV page. I don't know. And I was like, look at that kitchen. That's amazing. Like, what if that's our answer to travel? And, we were 30 something at the time, no kids, just cats,
Right.
good jobs, 2 cars. Like, it was kind of like a fleeting moment. Like, how could that be possible for people like us? Like, we work, like, how are we going to do that? And I remember sitting down with my husband, and I was like, what if we could make that work? And he's like, do you think your job would let you work remotely? My job will let me work remotely. And I was like, I don't know. My boss is pretty traditional. I doubt he'll let me work remotely. Like, he likes to be able to walk in my office and ask me something at the last minute. And I was doing the books. Like, you can't do financial print checks remotely. So, you
Right.
really have to think about the logistics. And so again, fleeting in and out.
Uh-huh.
And then we just kept watching other people that were doing it, some YouTubers that were doing RV living. And I was like, maybe we should consider it. And I remember sitting in the living room. It was end of January 2018. Like, it's all pre-COVID. Like, the world is normal as it was. And I remember thinking, like, what if we did that? What if we really did the RV thing? What if we figured out the jobs? What if I worked Veg Inspired full time? What if I wrote cookbooks? What if? And I remember us both being like, well, our car leases are up in September 2020. What if we just wait? And then we had some close friends. We had somebody lose their life, and some family members pass away. And it was like sign after sign that life is short.
Sure.
And
the only non-renewable resource is time.
Right. And the more that happened, the more we were like, let's go look at RVs. Let's go sit in them. Let's go look at trucks. Let's really start to paint this picture. And the more painting we did, the more it got in our heart. And it was pretty fast. We told our family in May that we were going to sell our house and move into an RV. We met with our real estate agent in June. We listed the house. We met with our real estate agent in July. We listed the house in August of 2018. We had a huge garage sale in September of 2018. The Friday of our huge garage sale, we got an offer on our house with 30 days to move out.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was fast. And we'd already bought the RV, but the RV dealer was storing it because we couldn't store it in our neighborhood because there wasn't enough room in our driveway, and that was against the HOA. They were storing it until November 1st. So my whole focus all summer long was November 1st. Like, we'd never taken the RV out. We'd sat in it for a few hours, a couple days when we were measuring. And like, once we bought it, we were like, we got to get in it. We got to know how much space we have to pack our house into it. So we would go and we would sit in it and play around and, pretend we were working and just living the life in somebody's parking lot. So, October, now we're moving out into this RV. Well, little did I know that everybody goes to Florida for the winter in their RV. And so I start calling campgrounds, and they're like, honey, we've been booked for a year. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Right. So it all worked out. I believe in just believing it'll all work out and just going with the flow. And October 13th of 2018, we moved into the RV. And October 28th, we hit the road for Florida for our first winter as snowbirds.
Wow.
So we've been on the road for 3 years. We've been to 26 states, 19 national parks. We've been all the way from Key West to Glacier National Park in Montana, and all the way down to Big Bend National Park, looking over the Rio Grande to Mexico over the last 3 years.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's cool. Who does most of the driving?
Or my husband does all the driving. We have a
driving?
Pickup truck and a fifth wheel. And so we only travel about 3 to 4 hours at a time. And we tend to stay in places for 2 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
depending on the location and the time of year.
Oh, so it's an RV that's pulled by a truck.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. I'd never in my whole life heard of this ever before until a prior guest on Permission to Heal from season 1 named Jennifer Turnham, who lives in Australia. She and her husband were doing the same thing. They still kept an apartment. I think she's from Sydney. They kept an apartment, and he would he couldn't be 100% remote. So like a week, a month or something, he had to actually be in the office. So he would live in the apartment by himself for a week, and she stayed. I may be totally getting this wrong. So Jennifer, if you're listening to this and I'm ruining your story, I'm sorry. But then she would stay in the RV, and he would come back and meet her, and then they'd go somewhere else, but she worked 100% out of the RV. They lived in the RV. They called them caravans there, but same thing.
The
Wow.
funny thing that I usually get people say is, wait, so you're together
all
24/7 in a 310 square foot house? And I'm like, oh yes. Oh, we are. So it really helps you build your relationship and learn how to communicate, because you can't go upstairs. You can't go
There's
to the
nowhere to
basement.
go.
There's no
Right.
man cave. Like,
This is
we're
it.
all in the same room. I mean, we have a bedroom and a bathroom with doors, but for the most part, the living space is the kitchen, the office, the desk, the dining room. It's all one big area. Great room.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. I mean, it probably forces you to work on not letting things fester. You have to just say how you feel and put it all out there, and trust that it's going to be received in the manner that it was intended. And if not, we're going to work on it right now, because there's no freaking place to go.
Well, and so your podcast is Permission to Heal. And I think one of the things that RV life has given me is the ability to wake up with gratitude and happiness every day. Because when I was going to my job, even though I liked it,
Right.
it's a very trapped feeling.
Right.
And taking the risk to do something like this has brought so much joy to our lives. There isn't that day-to-day stress necessarily that tends to cause people in close proximity to argue or to
Right.
react. There just isn't the negative outside influences that cause us to go home and then react to our spouse or our children or our partners or the people in our lives.
That's a very good point. I think the only thing that gets my husband's knickers in a twist is his job and his commute. And if he could get rid of even if he had to keep the job that he doesn't like, if he could get rid of that commute, he'd be a totally different man.
And that is, I think that's a huge piece of why it makes our relationship so much easier or stronger, is that it's just us. There aren't outside influences that affect us. And we talk a lot about, like, we're in this together. Like, if we get a blowout, which we haven't had, knock on wood, we're in it together. If we go a wrong way or have a wrong turn, like, it's frustrating in the moment, but we have to solve it together. We don't have a choice.
Right.
So it's just a new perspective, and it's really given us that ability to come together in a different way than, we even knew was possible 3 years ago.
Sure. And you get to see so many amazing things. What'd you say? 26 states in 3 years. And I mean, that's amazing. And you're probably meeting so many different people and experiencing life in a totally different way that you would have never had the opportunity to do before.
Yes. And another really big benefit too is, like, we never lived near our families, right? We went away. I went away to college. I met him in college. We moved to Charlotte. We were away from our families in Western New York. RV life allows us to go and park near them for an extended period of time,
right,
and become part of their life. So it's not that pop in for the weekend and our nephews have to warm up to us for 2 days. And then by the time we're ready to leave, that's when we get the one hug that we might get.
Right.
It allows us to be part of their lives. And
right.
It's
because you can still keep that your life and your consistency about your own existence at the same time that you're blending with them, because you're just parked nearby.
and we're there for much longer of a period than just the
Right.
weekend. Cause that's all our Pittsburgh life ever was, just to drive up for the weekend and drive back. It was never, you never got to really immerse yourself in, you know, weekly events. Like, I don't even know, Sunday dinner or Thursday, I don't know, euchre tournament or something.
Right. That's cool. I think that's very cool. I know my husband used to say that that was his retirement fantasy, to buy an RV and, pare the belongings down and drive away into the sunset. I don't know if he still thinks that, but we haven't talked about it in a while. But
We meet a lot of people who are doing that. A lot of people that just travel for 6 months out of the year, come home and be with their families during either the holidays or during the season that, that's best in their area. And we meet a lot of people that travel as retirees.
interesting. That's still quite a way off because of the way the world is, but interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And your business, I mean, Veg Inspired couldn't be more flexible for this, being able to virtually connect with your groups and your one-on-one coaching people, and you do all of your cookbook experimenting, recipe inventing in the kitchen in the RV.
I do. Yes. All 3 cookbooks were written in the RV. And, I think the biggest challenge about my business is making sure that we have good internet connection so that these calls go smoothly instead of all wiggly.
Right.
And everybody
Right.
knows what Zoom, the lack of internet with Zoom after the last year and a half of being in the situation that we're in from a worldly perspective. So, that's the biggest challenge, is just making sure that I have a good internet connection so that I can connect.
What do you do about mail? Do you get mail? No.
We do get mail. We actually have a mail service, and we ship everything to the mail service. We ship mail to the mail service, like bills and weird random things that won't go to electronic billing. Every now and then there's a weird one.
Right.
But packages we typically ship to the RV parks, or like in this case, I'm staying near my parents. So when we got here on Sunday, I had 12 packages to open because I've been sending all of my things to my parents' house, and they've been stocking them in a corner. It was like Christmas when I got there on Sunday with all the goodies that I've ordered for the last 2 weeks. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Thinking about how much of my life I would have to change in order to do that. I don't know. I'm such a creature of habit. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was like on my way to school and I was driving the same exact place where I go and the same exact roads at the same exact time. And I parked in the same exact spot in the same exact parking lot and walked up the same exact stairs, 27 years, the same exact thing. And I was just in that moment feeling like I just need to break out. This too much the same. I'm drowning in this. It's crazy. And then like the next day I was like, but it's so comforting. It's secure. I don't have to worry about where the next paycheck's coming. I don't have to feel like a fish out of water. I know everyone knows me. I know everyone, I've got my classroom that I've been in for so many years. There's something about the continuity that's so comforting at the same time that sometimes it feels suffocating. I don't know.
I'm a total creature of habit. That was me. I parked in the same parking lot at work. I would drive me crazy if somebody got there before me. And my biggest advice to people, and this would be for anything, plant-based, business, lifestyle, any lifestyle changes, you have to go into it knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning, but man, is it worth it? I would say that every risk I've ever taken has been worth it, but this risk, especially, there's still challenges, right? As a creature of habit, we like our grocery store. Right. We don't have a grocery store anymore. Our grocery store changes every time we move the RV.
Right.
You buy a house. Oftentimes you love your garden. You love the things about it. You do things to it that make it, especially outside, looking out the windows, different,
Sure.
Our townhouse in Pennsylvania had a gorgeous back view out the back on the back deck. Like it was beautiful. We'd get a sunset every night. Like it was gorgeous.
Yeah, but now
today,
you get different sunsets every night.
Exactly. So when you start to look at the, today's my sun sets over here behind somebody else's RV. But what I'm looking at this way are palm fronds. Yesterday, I looked out the window and there was an iguana looking at me from the tree. He probably
Nice.
couldn't see me. He just saw his own reflection, but I
Sure.
could see him. And it's just every view is different.
Nice. That's
And
cool.
some are awesome. And some you're like, wow, I'm really close to my neighbor. You just take it in stride.
Well, like anything else, those are good with the not so good. That's very cool. And you're right. Every risk comes with potential things you don't like, but there also comes with potential for unlimited growth and beauty and fabulousness. And the only way to figure that out is to try.
Yep.
And, I say all the time, the only way to fail is to not try.
Right. And that's like, we're talking about RV living, but that's food with true. That's true with food too, right? Like
Right.
there's the only way to know if you're going to thrive or enjoy or feel energized eating more plants is to try it.
And eat more plants.
Yep.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. So let's get to the 7 quick questions.
Okay.
What 6 words would you use to describe yourself?
Energized, fun. I have to actually count on my hands. Ambitious, honest, compassionate, friendly.
Sounds good to me. What's your favorite way to spend a day?
Oh, snuggling with a cat in a book.
Oh.
Or coaching my clients, because today was a coaching day and it fills me with so much joy to talk to them. So I'm
it depends on
either
the
of
day.
those two. Yep.
Nice. All my cats are young and they don't really like to snuggle so much yet.
They'll get there.
Soon, I hope. They're starting to let me hug them more, and I just can't wait until someone will come and cuddle. They'll sleep on my legs, things like that, but I want more kitty cat hugging. What is your favorite childhood memory?
Oh, so my favorite childhood memories are Christmas Day. My parents always hosted Christmas, and it was like a day of all my family came and got together, and my cousins would get there early and we would hang out and open presents. And my girl cousin, who's just a year older than me, we would always get some type of similar outfit, and so we would dress in that and play with our games. And I remember Christmas as being so family focused, and I love that. And those are my favorite memories, when all the family was still around and alive, and just really spending time together.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. What is your favorite meal, Miss Veg Inspired? Tacos. You said that quickly.
All day, every way. Potato tacos, bean tacos, veggie tacos, tofu tacos. I'm here for tacos.
Tacos. What do you use instead of cheese?
Usually avocado or a cashew drizzle. I used to use vegan cheese, but now I just opt out. Or there's some nut-based cheeses, like a cashew cheese or cashew cream, something of that nature, just to give it that creamy luxury. But I really like avocado for that. Or guacamole.
I love avocado. I found a really good recipe for chocolate brownies using avocado as the base.
Ooh, that sounds good.
So good. And I'm mixing it together, and my husband's like, "What in the freaking hell are you doing? That's disgusting." I'm like, just wait. You won't taste the avocado, because he doesn't like avocado. You won't taste the avocado. It's not going to be green, I swear. And he reluctantly said it was okay.
That's funny. I love it.
Yeah, it's nuts. What one piece of advice would you like to give your younger self?
Eat more plants and take more risks. So 2 pieces.
That works. It works. Don't eat risky plants, though.
Yeah. Don't eat risky plants. Just eat the ones that you find at the store.
Right. Exactly. Now, is there truth, before I get to the next question, is there truth that we should be shopping and eating out of the perimeter of the grocery store and not what's in the middle?
Well,
except for the freezer section, maybe?
A little, but I don't do the dairy and the meat
Right.
and the cheese and the
Oh.
fish, and those are all in the perimeter. So I opt more
Oh.
for
Well, it's usually
the
the
don't
produce side is usually on a perimeter side, isn't it? I don't know.
right produce, beans and grains, freezer section
That's
is
kind of
pretty
it.
much what I shop. I mean, yeah, because I don't buy processed food. So I'm more of the don't buy foods that have ingredients, just buy the ingredients,
I like that. I like
right?
that. Okay. I think that's cool. Number 6, what is one thing that you would most like to change about the world?
Gosh,
It's a small question.
I know. I would like the world. Hmm,
I always think of that Coke commercial from the 70s. I'd like to teach the world to sing, or I'd like to buy the world a Coke, always runs through my head when I ask this question.
you know, I think being a US traveler, like traveling full time, has made me really appreciate the connection I have to new parts of the country.
Mhm.
I'd like international travel to be more accessible. And I don't know exactly what that means. I taught in inner city Charlotte, rural low income schools, and then a private school. And so I've seen like different people having different options, and I really wish travel in itself was more accessible to people.
Right. Because they'd learn so much more about what life was like in other cultures and for other people, and get out of their own little mirrored back to them community.
Yeah, I mean, even just traveling across the country or going to a new part of the United States has given me such a different appreciation for, you know, just the whole world and community and society and civilization. I mean, it's just a different perspective.
Yeah. Invaluable. The lessons you learn from travel.
Mhm.
The last question, what TV shows are you binging right now? We go from worldly to TV shows, but that's okay.
Well, so I only watch one TV show on TV,
Okay.
and well, I guess it's multiple TV shows, but it falls under one category. And that is the Bachelor Bachelorette franchise.
Really?
Yep, I watch it with my best friend. We set a date to watch it together, and we text message through the whole show. And then I'm a sucker for Hallmark movies, so I watch those. But other than I don't watch TV shows other than the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise shows.
Okay. I think I've only seen one episode once.
Like
Interesting.
it's a funny quirk, I guess.
No, it's good. That's why they have different TV shows, because people have different tastes and stuff. Yeah. We get into ruts and watch stuff. The latest thing that we've watched, and I've now watched it 3 times because I'm crazy, is the TV show Ted Lasso on the Apple Plus network or Apple
Oh,
TV or whatever. And I'm not a sports fan. I'm like the least athletic person. They used to fight over who got stuck with me on teams in school. Like, I'm
oh,
just terrible. Um, and so this is about a Kansas football coach, American football coach, being recruited to coach soccer or UFC, football in London, like an actual like professional football team. We'd call it soccer, but and he's trying to learn the rules, and it's like it's just it's wonderful. And yes, it has something to do with soccer, but soccer at that point is just the metaphor for life and the philosophy, and it's so uplifting and funny and moving and beautiful and sad, and I love it. So great.
I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds interesting. Maybe you'll add a new TV show to my. I used to be a crime drama binger. Like I would just watch every crime drama
Oh, I have nightmares. It
all
scares me.
day, and now that's how I feel. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
because the walls are so small in an RV or feel
Maybe.
more vulnerable. I don't know,
Maybe.
but
I don't know.
I
I
stick
think the
with
world
my
is scary enough. I don't need to go watch those drama things. I don't
yep.
know.
So I said stick with my sappy drama, happy Hallmark movies and
Can't go
bachelor
wrong. I
bachelor
love that.
drama.
Love that. This has been wonderful chatting with you, Kathy. I'm so glad that you came on Permission to Heal and told us all about Veg Inspired foods and your business, and all of the links for people who are listening or watching on YouTube are down in the show notes, links to her socials and her business and books and all of that stuff. It's all there. So
Awesome.
like we said in
Thank
the
you,
beginning,
Marcy.
if you're not driving, scroll. If you are, wait. Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you, Marcy. I had so much fun.
I'm so glad. Don't go anywhere.
Bye.
Bye. I am very proud of this Permission to Heal podcast. I want to thank all of you for listening each week, and I'm so glad that it speaks to you. Creating and producing this podcast brings joy to my life, but honestly, I need your help because I find commercials annoying when I listen to podcasts. I don't have commercials on Permission to Heal. I pay for the costs of creating, producing, and marketing this podcast out of my own pocket, and I'm happy to do so, except that times are kind of tough right now, and I could use your help. So through Patreon and a Patreon subscription, you can support the Permission to Heal podcast and help ensure that I'm able to make more episodes and share them with the world. There are several subscription levels that come with different perks and swag. If you're able to, and if you are inclined to, I would really, really appreciate your help. Please go to www.patreon.com/permission to heal. Patreon, patreon.com/permission to heal. And it's linked in the show notes, so scroll down, click away. Thank you so much for your consideration. I hope you and your families are well and happy. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Permission to Heal. I hope you found it moving and inspirational. Please remember, you don't need anyone else's permission to trust and follow your heart. You have the power within you. Subscribe to Permission to Heal so you don't miss any new episodes, and please share this with your friends.